the number one thing I suggested, which I still suggest to you, Stephen, is that I really think personally this first idea and this second, and this is your second idea. Honestly, I would leave it at that for now because to me this is a separate idea, this thing here, and this is a separate idea, this is a separate idea. So what ends up happening is that now you're on measure 10 or 11 and you have like four different ideas that you're contending with in your head, and it becomes a lot. I don't know how you feel, like have you felt that way while writing this, or is it just my perception?
I felt that there was something that needed to be done, and I hadn't quite figured out what. It was getting. I wanted to build more space than I have, but I took your advice to heart, and I started working on that. But at this point, I took the first idea and the second idea, and I put it into all of the keys that I would want to use, and then I divided it up into different meters, trying different ideas there. But I haven't put it back into completing a piece. It's just playing with the ideas separately.
Yeah, that's perfect. Like that's a great first step. That's what you should be doing because you might find something in there that you didn't think about the first time. That's step one. And step two, I would really consider because, and I would be curious to hear what everybody else thinks. This rhythm here that you do is very interesting because look at the meter here. You have 6/4, and this is actually a true 6/4. I usually don't say that many times, but yeah, that this really looks like a 6/4. I mean, you could do 3/4 if you want. I mean, I would, but it really, you could keep it as 6/4, and I think it's fine for solo piano. But like, look at this bar here. This third bar is divided in four, so you got kind of like an interesting like polyrhythm thing going on. You got
Yeah.
sixes here, and then you have fours here within sixes, and you can really take advantage of this because you set this up in an interesting way. Like, what if you superimpose this with this? Like, what if you had this on top of this, or what if you had this on top of this? But this would be in the bass line, like down an octave or something. Like, what would that be like? Like, what as a thought experiment, what would it be like if you combined these two at a certain point, or just stayed in this rhythmic profile for a while? Like, that's your
Yeah.
whole piece right there. It's this and this. You don't need this or this, or it could be later in the piece, but this is enough. I think to do like to do at least 3 4 minutes. Do you see what
Yeah.
I mean, Stephen?
I
By
do
by
see what
just
you mean.
the point of these feedback sessions, by the way, is not to like fix your piece, if that makes sense. Like that's not my
Yeah.
intention. My intention is like I want you to come away with one, maybe two things to fix on your own for next time, or to like think
Yeah.
about. In my view, and maybe people, I want to open the floor. In my view, you only have two ideas, this idea and this idea, and you should do several iterations of those before you think about a third idea. That's just my thinking.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look too closely at the score, but f from the sounds of it, since this is a solo piano piece, something you might want to explore is having more kind of trade-offs between the hands. I'm not sure exactly what you're anticipating as far as the actual player fingering this, but the main idea has kind of one voice that starts and then another voice that continues, but maybe there could be some interplay between the sustained voice and then the
Yes, I think I see
contour
what you're
that goes
saying.
up and down.
I think this is good, Stephen. And when did you start writing this piece, by the way? I'm like curious. I'm always curious.
About 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that's fast. You guys are fast. I don't know what it is. But I would just go back, instead of you have no problem writing in terms of the speed. So slow it
Yeah.
down a little bit, That's what I would recommend. Slow it down a little bit, focus on a couple ideas, and let's come back in a couple weeks and let's see this again.